Hey, this is the video for 5.14, Integrated Pest Management. So go ahead and check out the overview and set up your guided notes. So Integrated Pest Management, or IPM as it's called, is just a way of controlling pests while minimizing the environmental impact. So you can still use pesticides. In fact, that term integrated just means that you're using different methods together. And you're trying to do this in a way that it is not only environmentally, but financially responsible. So the first method we're going to discuss is biocontrol. And biocontrol is when you're using biological methods to eliminate pests, like predator-prey relationships. This example, a ladybug is a natural predator of the aphid. And these aphids are little tiny insects that get all over plants, and they like to suck the liquid part out of plants. So they're very damaging. They're probably not going to kill your plant, but they're going to definitely restrict the yield of your crops. So these can be self-sustaining. If you have, like for example, if you have enough aphids, you can get a lot of ladybugs and sustain that population. I had a bunch of aphids. I do every year. I just get a batch of ladybugs, like 10,000 ladybugs, and they last for a couple of days. They eat all the aphids, and then boop, they fly away. But if I had a smaller population, like there's a couple of ladybugs that still live back there, but they've pretty much just gone away. But if you had enough prey, like the predators are going to stick around if the prey are going to repopulate. These can be potentially invasive, and this happened in Australia with the cane toad. They brought the cane toad in to feed on a beetle that was attacking the sugarcane, and then the cane toads became invasive themselves. This is not the only, there's plenty of examples as well. They can also eat unintended targets. Ladybugs are not that type of insect. Ladybugs are actually very, very welcome, and they're pretty well known in the ecological world as excellent methods of biocontrol. Another method is agroforestry, and that's where you're planting trees alongside agricultural crops. This is really done in like areas where you may have grape orchards, like or citrus orchards. You'll grow tree fruits, and then you'll grow crops on the ground as well. So this will be great because it could be a habitat for birds, and birds can be predators of insects or other smaller animals. They can also maximize production because you're using this leftover space, and you could get, like, for example, you could get beans or something that's going to crawl up the tree, like a vining type plant, like cucumbers or squash. And one thing that you could also do is have something that's going to replenish the nitrogen, like a nitrogen fixer, like a legume. The trees can also provide support for some of these agricultural crops. Some downsides, you need to have crops that are shade tolerant, especially if you have larger trees that have a bigger canopy. There may be increased competition for the water and the nutrients that are in the soil. Crop rotation is when you alternate crops each growing season. If you notice, there was corn. That's from the year before, and this is soybeans. So what's happening is you're altering the pest habitats. So last year there may have been organisms that were feeding on corn, and then they're like, oh, I'm just going to hibernate down here in the soil. Then all of a sudden they wake up, they're like, where's my corn? Oh crap, I got to move. So you're basically staying one step ahead of the pest. They're not going to become established. Negative is you're limiting your options for crops. If corn is a big cash crop in your area, as it is in my hometown, you can't keep planting it over and over and over again, or you're going to get pests that are going to come in and set up a community. Now, GMOs are great because GMOs, again, remember, you're altering the DNA of the plants to make them resistant to pests. So you can have targeted pest resistance, like the BT corn and the glyphosate resistant plants as well, although glyphosate resistance is resistance to the pesticide. But the BT corn was resistant specifically to the pests. The problem is we don't really know long-term effects because this has only been in practice for just over 30 years. Okay, also the agricultural companies are going to own these seeds. So if you get corn that is from Monsanto and your corn plant makes new corn, you can't plant that corn in your soil because the chemical or the agricultural company owns those seeds. And you can get in a lot of trouble as a farmer from these big agribusiness companies. Another method is a physical method, like using traps and barriers to deter or capture insects. You could use a trap like this. This is a trap I use for squirrels and rats. I have squirrel problems in my backyard, especially in the spring and in the fall. But also you can use glue traps, or you can put nets around certain things. My parents have deer that come in. If you have bears can come in and eat out of your garden. Like raccoons are horrible at that. So you can use physical barriers to keep them away. The good thing is you can prevent the colonies from forming. It's potentially more humane unless you're doing very horrible things to them once you catch them. You can also impact some non-target species. In fact, in one of these, I actually caught a little tiny sparrow. I had to let it go, obviously. But that could be something that could be a potential problem down the road. There are some benefits and drawbacks to integrated pest management. For starters, you're reducing death and mutations from use of chemical pesticides. The use of atrazine, and we'll talk about atrazine in later videos, but you can have frogs that are intersex. Feminization, you can have, it's an endocrine disruptor. It can cause male frogs to develop female characteristics. You can prevent eagle deaths from DDT we talked about. You can also have prevent deaths to pollinators by the use of glyphosate or other pesticides. There's human health benefits because you're eliminating potential carcinogens. And also you can reduce the amount of groundwater contamination. Now, a couple of drawbacks is it is time consuming because you can't just go and spray the whole field. It also is more expensive. So what I would like you to do is respond to this check for understanding. And for FRQ practice, take a look at this graph. And I want you, based on the data in the graph, justify the pest control method that likely involved integrated pest management. So your answer will include either A, B, or C. I hope that this video was informative. I thank you for your attention, and I will see you soon.